Hey everybody! So today we are going to talk about the North and South nodes in the 6th and the 12th houses. Now you might be like, didn't you already do a video on this? I did, close to a year ago. But after having the conversation with Cassandra, I was going through my videos that I'd made about the nodal axis in different houses and different signs, and I made some of them in our garage. And I was like, I don't really like how this looks. I really like the outside as a background. So I figured I'm just gonna redo the ones that were done in the garage. So those are gone, those will be gone, and these new ones will be up. But first, let's talk for just a second about what the South Node and the North Node, what they are. So the South Node, is, if you're not comfortable with the notion of past lives, I'm going to kind of talk about it from that lens, but you don't have to think of it that way if you don't want to. But the South Node is thought of as like, it's thought of as where you're coming from a previous lifetime lens, by sign and house and aspects made, and then where the planetary ruler of the South Node falls by sign and house and aspects made. Now, if you don't like that, you can just think of it as the South Node and the planetary ruler of the South Node. They are where you come into this lifetime comfortable, familiar, what you're familiar with, what's known to you and understood to you, by you. You could think of it that way. Even if you think of past, even if you're comfortable with the notion of past lives, though, you can still think of the South Node as what's comfortable or known or understood to you. But obviously, because we are evolving, we should be, the goal is not to stay in the South Node. It is to move forward into North Node territory. The North Node territory would be like, that's like your soul's mission this time around, or one of them. Pluto polarity point is another one, another part of the soul's mission, but the North Node is definitely important. The North Node by sign and house and aspects made, along with where the planetary ruler of the North Node falls by sign and house and aspects made. It's like something that you wanted to achieve, grow into, evolve into in this lifetime. So when you have, and what I'm about to say about the North and South nodes in the 6th and the 12th houses, it is not universal. These are just some things that come to mind first when I see the nodes in this along this axis. But not universal. Don't take what I'm saying, and there are many ways that this could go, right? These are just some of the big ones that stand out to me first when I see this going on, or where my mind goes first. It doesn't always stay there, but okay. So let's say you have the North Node in the 12th house. Now the 12th house is not in reality. It's not. It's a very unconscious place. So it's not centered in reality. When I see a South Node in the 12th house, I do automatically think that the person is coming from a previous lifetime, or the previous lifetime most tied to this lifetime. There's something going on with reality here. Not living in the real world enough. Now, is that always a bad thing? Not necessarily. Bad thing. It's not necessarily bad, but there could be some hang up with that. There could be. Oftentimes, these people aren't as comfortable in the real world when you see a South Node 12th house person. There might be, and this might be like a minor discomfort to a complete and total discomfort in the real world. It really depends. But a lot of the time, there is something going on with that. Spirituality is a big one. Sometimes you'll see like the South Node 12th house person, you may feel like they may have spent a lot of their previous lifetime in the spiritual realms, immersed in their own spirituality. This is very, very possible. If we're talking about, and here in the 12th house, this is strictly like spirituality. If we're talking about like, and you know, there is a difference between religion and spirituality. Religious people can be spiritual, but here in the 12th house, it really is more spiritual without the religion. Now, sometimes you might see markers for religion with this, like if you've got like the South Node in the 12th house and the planetary ruler of the South Node is in the 9th house, that could be a religious marker, a religious spiritual marker. It could be. But Again, that depends on the whole chart. But definitely the spirituality thing is probably important here. Does play in some way. Escape. The 12th house is about escaping. So you could be looking at somebody who did too much escaping in a previous lifetime. Maybe they had to, maybe it was out of necessity, you know. But you could be looking at themes like escape being a big one for the South Node person. Being a martyr and self-sacrifice. You might find somebody with the South Node in the 12th house and they're very comfortable playing that role of the martyr or sacrificing themselves. This may have been done in a previous lifetime too. So there's those things. Also imprisonment, incarceration, being institutionalized. All of these things are possible too with the South Node in the 12th house. Though don't take it literally. It can be, it certainly can be a literal thing, but it can also be like the person just feels like they are imprisoned in some way, or they come into this lifetime feeling that way. That might be a theme for this person, and certainly could have happened in a previous lifetime too. Okay, so if you've got the South Node in the 12th house, that would put your North Node in the 6th. Now the 6th house is the real physical mundane world, real life, mundane life, boring life, everyday life. It is work and service, not sacrificing, not martyrdom, but service. It is also physical health, and the 12th house I think of as more mental health, even if it's not totally conscious, since the 12th house is unconscious. The 6th house I think of health in both the physical and mental health realms. Again, connecting more to the real world. So if you've got the North Node in the 6th house, that means that perhaps I oftentimes find that when you find the North Node in the 6th, you're looking at somebody who does need to lean into the physical, mundane, boring, everyday world. This is important. It is important for them to generally learn something about service that isn't sacrificing to them, like they're not sacrificing themselves in the name of service. That's generally needing to be understood. And connecting to health is usually a big deal too. This is not universal, but I have seen that sometimes people with the North Node in the 6th, there might be some health things going on. And I almost wonder sometimes if this is to connect the person to the physical world. In some way, that's not universal, but I have noticed that it does seem to happen. Yeah, all of those things work is important too. Work and routine, very, very important. The South Node 12th house person might not do so well with work and routine. It's possible that they don't, or there's something that needs to be balanced with that. North Node in the 6th house, work and routine is very important. Leaning into these areas of life are super, super, super important. But again, none of those are universal. Just some ideas tossing out. Okay, so let's say now that you have the South Node in the 6th house. Okay, so from this lens, you might be coming from a previous lifetime where there was a lot of service going on. Lots of service, lots of work, lots of discipline even. Work may have been a big deal in this previous lifetime. Like the work that you did may have been a big deal. You probably, physical health could have been a big deal too, and mental health. Both of those things could have come into play with the South Node in the 6th house. It seems very, very possible. Very connected to the real world, oftentimes. Oftentimes there is something with that. Sometimes you might see something like the South Node, like the ruler of the South Node in some other place that kind of doesn't make that as much the case, but oftentimes there is a real connect to the physical world. something that definitely kept you here. Responsibilities. There's usually a feeling of responsibility with these people, depending on what sign this is, and the aspects maybe will kind of give you an idea as to what and where the planetary ruler falls. But these kinds of things usually do come into play with the South Node in the 6th house. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So then you would be looking at the North Node in the 12th house. Now from this lens, right, the North Node in the 12th, I think of somebody who they need to not, the 12th house has no boundaries. So there does need to be like a freeing of boundaries in this way. Perhaps a freeing of some of the responsibilities of the 6th house, or of some of the service that the 6th house South Node can indicate, the feeling of service. That's supposed to kind of go away a little bit, or learn how to balance, depending on what's going on in the chart. Usually the North and South Nodes are about balance. Sometimes, every once in a while, you will see a chart where it looks like they completely need to move away from their South Node. That does happen. But oftentimes it is about balance. So definitely loosening of the responsibilities, loosening of anything that's like discipline, loosening of service, and freeing themselves of those obligations. Definitely because they're coming from a previous lifetime of being more in the real physical world, and spirituality is such a big deal to the 12th house. There is a need for these people to immerse themselves in their spirituality in some capacity, to be, to allow themselves to do that. I feel like things like meditation and what have you would be really good for the North Node 12th house person. Probably hard for them, I would imagine. In a lot of cases it would be hard for them, but good for them to kind of get into that part of themselves. Understanding their unconscious, I feel like, would also be important. Since the 12th house is so unconscious, that does seem important. I'm trying to think if there's anything, the 12th house is also about grief and loss. So if you're looking at a North Node, I feel like if you've got the North Node in the 12th house, or even the South Node in the 12th house, South Node in the 12th house could point to somebody like having grief and loss that they need to like let go of and move forward into the 6th house North Node. But there could also be a release going on with the North Node in the 12th house too. I do feel like there could be a release of grief and loss there as well, that needs to be released. That definitely seems like it would still be important, just in a different way or for different reasons. I think that's probably pretty good. I think that's probably pretty good. When you're reading these though, when you're reading the South Node, you do want to veer more on the side of the South Node being challenging, because there are hang-ups. Like even people that have like lovely, wonderful seeming South Node stories, you're supposed to evolve and grow forward. So there are things that do need to be moved beyond. So even really lovely, nice looking South Node stories are going to have things that like hang-ups, So you do want to generally, when you're looking at the South Node, you want to veer more on the side of it being challenging. Same thing with the planetary ruler of the South Node. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. I'll do the other ones soon. But I'll put where you can find me in the description box below, and I'll also put a link to the star cards if anybody is interested in them. Yeah. Okay. Well, I will see you all later.